Live from the Clarity from Chaos studios, heard worldwide, it's Dave Campbell. On every episode, Dave and his guests explore, discuss, and work on solutions to some of life's biggest challenges. So, if you're ready, be prepared to be enlightened, amused, and even shocked by what you hear. And now, the real, the authentic, the one and only Dave Campbell.
Welcome, everyone. You're listening to Clarity from Chaos. I'm your host, Dave Campbell. If you're new to the show and like what you hear, share it with a friend. I'd really appreciate it. We'd like to grow our audience a little bit. But before I get into the actual meat of the show tonight, I'd like to share a few thoughts with you. Years ago, when I formulated the podcast, it was based on my views about how corporate media has spun their lies and stuff around politics. But over the course of the last couple of weeks, I've come to understand that the podcast name really kind of transcends that early view. What we really have here, ladies and gentlemen, is a spiritual battle going on. And Clarity from Chaos is really God's light, or His clarity, protecting us from the evil, the chaos surrounding us. In the Bible, in 1 Peter 5, it states, "Humble yourself, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that you may exalt you in due time. Cast all your anxiety on Him, because He cares for you. Discipline yourselves and keep alert. Like a roaring lion, your adversary, the devil, prowls around looking for someone to devour." Our guest on this edition of Clarity is not a newcomer to the show. He is someone who has been on the front lines fighting the evil that we just spoke about all over this country. He is the founder and president and CEO of Invest USA, Dr. Michael Letts. Michael has over 30 years of law enforcement experience, and his company has supplied almost 14,000 concealable and active shooter vests to the police forces across our great country. Welcome to the show, Charlie.
Well, thank you, David. It's always a privilege to be with you, and we thank you for the opportunity. And, we got that figure up to almost 18,000 now.
Really?
With the help of listeners such as yourself.
So let's, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask your thoughts around the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Well, I will tell you this, David. Charlie was a good friend, and so I lost a friend as well as a colleague. But I can also let you know that these are some of the conversations we've been having with the administration. We have to make sure that we're not doing the same thing that has been the MO for agencies within our government for the last 6 decades, starting with JFK. And I ask people this question: do you have all the information on JFK? Do you believe what the files say on JFK? MLK, RFK, and even what we call now Butler, we're using that word for the attempted assassination on President Trump.
Exactly.
That's amazing. 18 months ago, David, and we still don't have the answers. Now, let's clarify that. Do we not have the answers? I don't believe that for a minute. I've been in intelligence before. Do you not have the information?
I don't have the answer, but I'm sure the answers are out there.
Exactly. The American public doesn't have it. And why is that? Because we try to portray a narrative, because perhaps there were involvement by various agencies, by various governments and all, that we simply don't want to make public. You say, why wouldn't you want to make it public? It would create chaos if people understood what really our government was doing behind the scenes. And that's why they fight so hard to hide it. Now, this administration said, we're going to drain the swamp. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. We're going to be transparent. I will tell you, though, in this particular incident with Charlie, David, there are way too many questions and too many narratives that are being put together that simply don't add up. That it has created severe doubt among a lot of people in this great country. And my pleading with the administration, and I appreciate Cash getting back and saying, look, we're going to mention what you said. We're going to take every question that comes up now. We're going to look at it, provide whether it has any validity or not, and try to go that path. So that's all the American people want. Don't dismiss their questions. Don't try to hide behind, well, we gave you an answer. Anything outside of this answer is a conspiracy theorist. It's not. It's valid questions, and they have a right to be asked, especially the way our government has treated these investigations in the past. So that was a long way of giving you your answer. Am I pleased with what's going on in the investigation? Not in the least, David. I think we're a long way from where we need to be. And my point has been very clear. I know I'm not very popular at the moment, but if you want to do this, then you're no better off than any of the previous administrations before. And I know we're better than that. So let's make sure we hold the course, stay steady, and get transparency and get the truth the American people.
Well, the last time you and I spoke, Michael, we talked about accountability. And at this point, I still don't see it. So I saw rumors today that Comey might be indicted and some other stuff. But to me, all of it really is just kabuki theater. You had all of this information released about the JFK assassination. I talked to the deputy counsel that was on the 76 congressional investigation, and the questions are still not being answered.
No, they're not.
And, I guess I can appreciate the fact that you don't want to indict one or more of the three-letter agencies out there for their misconduct or the stuff that they've done. But damn it, that's part of it, Mike.
I agree. I agree,
that's
David.
absolutely part of it. If you had done something, I had done something, they'd be on us like hobos on a hot dog.
Ain't no question.
And the fact that we're asking questions, just like with Butler, you had a district attorney in Butler, Pennsylvania. You had a attempted murder, and you never heard another word from him.
Right.
No more investigation around it, nothing. And I mean, for God's sake, you had somebody up on a roof with an M16 take a shot at, the president of the United States. And you now had, an assassin, today in Dallas. You had another guy on a roof.
Yes.
That killed two people. And I don't know what the outcome of the third individual. I don't know if they're still with us or not. I hope they are.
They are to this point.
Yeah. But, and we still have all of this rhetoric coming from the Democrats about stuff, and nobody's being held accountable. We had the J6 stuff that happened, Mike, and we had people in jail for 4 years without going to trial. They just locked them up and threw away the key. And nobody is holding those J6 committee members accountable for any of that crap. And
you're right, David.
And, I think, quite frankly, I know I shouldn't say I know they're trying, because I'm assuming that they're making somewhat of an effort. But damn it, if you just took like an Elon Musk and turned him loose on finding the evidence around stuff, it would come out. But it doesn't seem to be that case, Well,
it's amazing what indictments do, David, because when you go with indictments, people get nervous. They begin to turn on each other, and opens up all different kind of venues. Here's a couple positives. I want to make sure we hit the positives before we dig into some of the other things. The president has now, after lengthy discussions, come to agree with the realization that DOJ is just not cutting it. So he has sent a message that was supposed to be a private text. Somehow it got leaked to Pam, saying, telling Pam, look, enough's enough. We have done more than an adequate job of identifying the nefarious activities, but yet no indictments.
Right.
Either we get indictments or I'm going to find somebody that can. He was very blunt. And that is why suddenly today you're seeing, don't panic yet. We're fixing to go after James Comey, and the list is starting to grow. But I don't want just James Comey. I mean, I'm not saying that James Comey didn't do anything wrong.
No.
He is just a small fish in comparison to everything that's been done. And I don't expect you to pick 5 out of 100 and say, okay, I did something. That's good enough. All 100 need to be. I mean, everybody that committed nefarious activities should be tried. And of course, our system is set up that way. Now, I'm pressing the administration to do this because we have such corruption in our judicial system. You notice how this has been working, David. You see it all the time. We get things done in the administration. They get an activist judge to put a stay, a hold, etc. I can't trust the judicial system anymore.
No.
And so I'm encouraging the president. That is why our founding fathers had the bright idea that, look, if it ever got this bad, God forbid that it should, but if it got this bad, we encourage you to create a military tribunal, which military tribunals operate totally outside civilian jurisdictions, civilian jurisprudence. They have middle grade officers that serve as a jury. They present the facts. They tell these officers do one thing. Did these facts cause a violation of the law? And remember, they're using military law. And if it was a violation, tell us. If it was not, we dismiss it. But they don't say, you could do this and then take a month vacation, come back to it in 6 months. They have less than 60 days to wrap up the entire process. They hear it. They give you, David, the opportunity to provide anything you want to provide, any evidence, whatever you feel like is necessary. They don't allow you to do procedural work just to delay your process, but they give you the opportunity to be fair, to make sure you can answer any questions,
Right.
provide you information to declare your innocence. They make a determination. Here's what they do. They come back and say, yes, this law was violated. According to our Constitution, these are the penalties that are involved, or the military code, and we'll have the justice carried out in the next 48 hours. Boom.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Now, before everybody panics, the commander in chief can override that at any point in time, which is the president of the United States. But I mean, you're telling the president that we have to have something for the American people to feel like their confidence can be restored in justice. And at this stage now, we've taken so long, I think we've lost some momentum there. And I think that, A, we need to make sure we have an AG, and if not the AG, if they won't do it, fine. Establish the military council. We will go ahead and appoint. You remember, he's already pulled aside 600 AG military attorneys to serve as jurors and to serve as judges, 600 of them. You know, we built Gitmo, we expanded it with 30,000 beds that are empty right now because we anticipated there's going to be that kind of corruption in these investigations. I don't think we were wrong. I think it's there. I think nobody wants to move and nobody wants to act. It's time to start moving, and I think the president made that abundantly clear in the last 24 hours. Let's see where this thing goes, David.
Yeah. Well, you know, the other piece of this, Mike, is what Musk came up with uncovering all of the corruption, the financial corruption within the agencies. Congress hasn't even moved to codify any of that. And
well, there's a reason they don't want to do that.
well, sure,
David.
I know. It's just, you know,
they're getting a percentage of it. They're not going to cut off their own money.
Exactly, and that's, you know, it's like the George Soros. Nobody can figure out where Antifa's getting their money. I mean, even a simpleton like myself can figure out that the NGOs are siphoning all of this back and forth and everything else. You can't tell me that these guys aren't well funded and that money's coming in the door. They're dispersing it. They're doing whatever. A percentage goes to the, you know, the individuals, and then, you know, the $200 per person goes out to, you know, to go out the door with the rock throwing stuff. It amazes me at this day and age that a forensic man can go into a computer and suck everything that you thought was gone back out of that computer. Correct. And everything else, or finances, but yet they have the unmitigated gall to sit there and tell me that they don't know where the money for these NGOs is going. Come on. They know exactly where this damn money is going because it's part of their shtick, right? Yep. And I'm not talking Democrats or Republicans. I'm talking about the whole damn bunch of them are in this up to their eyeballs. And
over half of Congress we have documentation on. Yeah. Current members of Congress.
Sure. And
they know it.
Can you blame the public for going, bullshit? You know, this is nothing but BS. You know, go ahead.
It's amazing to me, David. No, I'm glad we're having a discussion. You know, if you and I were doing that, and we found out that they were on to us, and we knew that they knew what we were doing, man, I wouldn't be touching another dime. I'd be trying to figure out every way I could to try to make things right. Does Congress care that we have the files now, that we know it? Not in the least. No. They continue to do it because of what I was telling the administration. We have been very poor at bringing in accountability. We've done a fantastic job of identifying the nefarious acts. We've done it, and of course, now they don't even care. They could care less whether you identify them or not. But we did a great job of identifying. But the reason why they don't care is because there are no follow-up on accountability. Right. And that's the way it's been up to this point. And if that doesn't change, David, we're in deep trouble because none of this will get solved. They'll just continue to do it. And why wouldn't they? It's kind of like, okay, so you tarnish my reputation. Big deal. I'm still making millions off of it. Who cares?
Well, I mean, you know, just something that just pops into my head, you know, Swalwell and his girlfriend, in any other situation, both of them would still be in jail. But one's still in Congress. You know, you have somebody like Maxine Waters who's gone out and spewed all kinds of violent rhetoric. She's still walking around. You know, the fact that Musk asked to do an audit of all the congressional and senators to find out how come it is that on $170,000 a year, you're a multimillionaire, or you were a barista 3 years ago, and now you're a multimillionaire. You know, I know people that have worked all their life that are damn lucky to get, you know, to save up 500 grand or something like that, much less them being, you know, millionaires. And it's just, but that whole scenario about auditing these individuals kind of came and went, right?
You're correct.
It never got any traction. Nobody ever followed through on it, nor will anybody ever follow through on it.
You know, the interesting thing about that scenario, and I raised that question last night, we issued an executive order requiring the auditing of every member of Congress.
Yeah.
Is anybody, you know, remember now the executive order doesn't mean the president himself walks in there with a, you know, a paper and pen and says, okay, something like your books. But that gets sent over to the Department of Justice for enforcement. What happened to it? You know, it's the same thing that he said he was telling the Attorney General on the issue of the U.S. Attorney in Eastern Virginia, who was supposed to be prosecuting the case against the New York Attorney General, Letitia James.
Exactly.
Who said, no, I don't think there's enough case. And the president looked and said, what do you mean there's not enough case? Either she signed the papers that said this was her primary residence, which it wasn't, or she didn't sign them.
Yeah.
Her signature attests to that fact.
Yeah.
And you just go down the list. I mean, this is not a matter of, well, you ran a red light, but we don't have any video. I thought it was yellow. You thought it was red. I'm not sure we can convince 12 people that it really was. This doesn't do that. It is black and white. What more evidence do you need? You're just simply refusing to move forward with indictments. And that was what he told her. Now, to Pam's credit, she fired her chief of staff this morning. But I don't know that that's going to change anything or not, David. I know that she's on a short stick. I can promise you that. But we've got to have some people in here that are willing to have some backbone and not just give us rhetoric, but give us action.
Well, you know, the problem, Mike, is most of what's happened over the last 9 months has been the sheer personality of Donald Trump trying to get things done. Because much as you look around Washington, not a whole lot's changed. Not a whole lot at all, other than him doing what he does basically on his own. Because he's gotten very little support from the Senate or from the House. Very little.
The only thing that's happened in the Senate is Adam Schiff gets a promotion into the Senate for lying to the American public and perjury.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Disgusting.
It is disgusting. And, you know, the 75 or 80 million people in this country are sitting there looking at this and they're going, you know, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. You know, they can see it. You can see it. I can see it. But these guys just keep kicking the can down the road. And I feel bad for the president because I think he wants to get this crap cleaned up.
He does.
But you know, the corruption is so deep and wide in Washington, D.C., with all the entanglements of the agencies and everything else. And that's just like, you know, trying to shut down the USAID. You get all these activist judges going, oh, my God, you can't stop foreign aid to Uganda.
Right.
Come on. I mean, you know, you've got all of this stuff going on within our own domestic boundaries that nobody pays any attention to, but you're worried about, you know, Uganda or whatever the hell's going on out there. It's just, I think people are gonna. I think you're right. I think people are getting pretty much fed up.
It is, and it transcends not just to what we're doing within our borders, but it transcends globally. I know, you know, I mean, I've met Putin. I know that I know Russia well. You know, Putin had asked the question recently, you know, privately, Mr. President, who runs your country? I mean, and why would you make such a statement? He understands, yes, we're going to drain the swamp. These people are going to indict him. And then he sees nothing. He understands that, you know, oh, we're not going to support Ukraine anymore. The taxpayers shouldn't have to do that. We're going to cut that out. And then Congress ships billions of dollars the next week over there. So from his standpoint, appreciate your gestures, but I don't know what to believe at this stage. So it looks like I'm just going to have to do my own thing. And I'm not going to let Ukraine think that they've gained any ground. And as much as I disagree with that, you've almost got to tell him, you know, he has a point. Why don't we clean up our mess before we can go clean up anybody else's?
Well, absolutely. And you know, the other thing, while it's on my mind and I'm just kind of sitting here ranting, Mike, is the fact that we've only got 6 CEOs and approximately 200 executives running the entire media in this country.
Correct.
I mean, everything that you see or hear in this country is run by 6 companies. You know, that the thing about Charlie is, if it hadn't been for Megyn Kelly coming out and saying, crying foul here that Fox had banned him from the Fox News network because of his relationship with Tucker, that wouldn't even have come out, right? Everybody's sitting there, memorializing Charlie on Fox. Nobody's talking about the fact that News Corp had banned him from being on air because of his support for Tucker Carlson.
And then, David, you get to the same point what we're talking about here. President has his frustration. All right, I'm going to have the FCC take a look at whether you should even have your license or not. Well, at first you would think the FCC would be shaking their boots, but all they do is say, yeah, you're doing that and everything else, and I haven't seen any action on any of it. We'll put it in the back of our storage bin here. We'll let you know when we decide to be concerned about it.
Well, that's like Patel finding
frustrating
all the burn bags in the little room in there, and Gabbard releasing all of that documentation that's been sitting around for the last 60 years or so that nobody's seen or heard of or anything else, and it's still not going anywhere. They've released some of the documentation, but I would point out that the DOJ hasn't done a really good job of cleaning that up and getting it out for public consumption.
No, they haven't, and they've done it deliberately, I believe.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's part and parcel to the fact that when people start reading it, they're going to start asking the same questions, and they're going to start coming to conclusions that they've been somewhat hoodwinked over the last many years, and then that's going to start destroying the credibility. Now, like I said, I can certainly understand their reservation of basically dropping their knickers, but damn it, they did this, right?
Correct.
They did
That's
this.
the key, David. They did it.
They did this, and the public deserves better. I mean, I can sit here and argue that people voted for AOC. How in God's name they came to that conclusion? Or people are going to end up voting for the communists for the mayor of New York, for God's sake, and that's going to happen probably. Or people voted for Schiff and people voted for Swalwell. I don't really understand where they're at with their heads, but the problem's still there that the majority of the people in this country, the 80 million plus people in this country, deserve better. They absolutely deserve better than a bunch of politicians only looking out for themselves when they were elected to look out for the United States first.
Yes.
Not them first.
Well, there's so many things there, David, what you were just talking about. I mean, the president has attested to this, and I've seen the files to know this is true. We know now how bad the election fraud was in the last election.
Yeah.
And you have the president saying, we're going to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Have you seen any accountability of that? Do you even see it even being talked about anymore anywhere other than on shows like yours? I mean, you don't see it even being talked about anymore.
No.
It's just, and the president came out today, and I appreciated we had talked, and I appreciated his statement today that Barack Obama will be held accountable and will be brought to justice. But I'm sitting here listening to when you actually went out today, had a meal out, and I'm listening. I have all these people that are coming up to me wanting to talk, and I'm listening to them. Nothing's going to happen, is it? This is just more of the same.
Yeah.
This is just more of the same. We appreciate the president's desire. We're going to give him credit for that, but I don't even know if I want to vote anymore. I mean, this country is just too far gone. There is no change. That's a sad statement, David.
Yeah, I know. And that's why, I said at the top of the show, Mike, that clarity from chaos has really shifted in my mind now from something as simple as media, corporate media, or the politicians. It's really shifted to good versus evil.
No question.
And it has, to me, it has clarified itself to, it's binary. It is binary now. There is no gray zone.
That's correct.
It's either good or it's evil. And unfortunately, I think people are trying to mitigate that and try to move it around or whatever. But it to me, it has really evolved itself to the point where it's binary now, Mike.
It doesn't work too good to try to shift it around, dude. It never comes out with a good ending.
No, it just doesn't. So let's talk on a different note. How's Invest doing? I mean, you said that you've got 18,000 of them out there. Sounds like you're getting there.
Yeah, we're making investors doing well, and let me tell you why. The American people are truly beginning to understand that we have to make sure we take care of our first responders because, after all, they put their lives on the line every day, and it's amazing why they still continue to do it. We don't pay them anything. We call them nasty
Yeah.
names. We say
Yeah.
they're not worth anything, but yet they're still doing it. I tell people this. When we made the change in the administration in January, the military quickly started building back up because President issued some strong directives, executive orders. We got rid of a bunch of the junk that was there, transgender, all that kind of stuff. They saw change and they moved forward. Law enforcement, I told you we lost almost 50% of our law enforcement officers across the country. That has started to change, but it's moving along much slower, David. And the reason why is because they're kind of looking and saying, I see what you're doing for the military. I hear what you're saying for cops. I don't see it yet.
Yeah.
I mean, you ran me out of town. You said I wasn't any good. Now suddenly you want me to come back. You don't want to apologize or anything. You just want me to come back because your numbers of crime are escalating. They're not buying that as well. So this is one of the things we as citizens can do to improve the quality of life and the safety for America, is to show our support for those that are left and encourage the rest of them to come back in and sign up for another tour.
Yeah, I mean, for God's sake, Trump's had to roll out the National Guard now in
Correct.
D.C. Now he's rolling it out, I guess, in Memphis.
And he's got Chicago and the rest of them on the list too. There's a lot more coming.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see how that starts to play out. And I really think the Democrats have kind of painted themselves into a corner on this thing.
They have.
They can't take a step back and say we support law and order, and all you have to do is look at what the hell they've been doing, right?
You're exactly right, David.
They finally got a verdict where the National Guard in L.A. was okay, but I can't figure out, Mike, what the hell their thinking is with all of this.
Their thinking is one thing, David. They got one thing in mind. I tell this on all the shows up across the country. They want power at any cost. They're mad that they lost it. The last thing they can afford to do is for the person that took it from the conservatives is make you think anything they do is worthy. So it doesn't make any difference. We're bringing in the Guard. We're reducing crime by 3/4. It doesn't make a difference whether that's good or not. As far as they're concerned, we are attacking these poor people just trying to make a better living, regardless of whether they're criminals, regardless of whether they're illegal. They're just trying to do their best to make a better lifestyle for their poor little kids. How dare you take the action? And anything they can do, they took a negative spin, I mean,
I know.
And that's all they know because they're so full of hatred. And the problem with it, David, is it's a lot easier to hate than it is to love and to, to try to get along. And so you've got people that are just, we've got an educational system. What have we been doing, David, with our educational system?
I know.
You and I have been funding not just higher education, but even in our high schools and middle schools, elementary schools. We've got communists, for God's sake, that are teaching there, that are telling everybody, worst country in the world. You ought to do something to tear it down, to destroy it. It sucks. What do you expect?
Well, and, my point about bringing out the 6 media CEOs and stuff like that, to me, they're responsible. They're complicit in spreading the cancer, across the country. And I'm not sure how you hold them accountable because they're going to hide behind the First Amendment. But, I think the First Amendment needs to be altered somewhat to include the words responsibility and accountability for what you say. You could say whatever the hell you want to say.
I agree.
But there's going to be responsible and there's going to be consequences from whatever you say. It's not, you can just not just slobber out whatever you want. There needs to be consequences. And, unfortunately, there was a minimal amount of consequences for Kimmel, but then Disney, took a knee and gave it back to him. And
what does that do? It just drives the point home that there is no accountability.
Exactly.
There is no accountability.
Exactly. And instead of the FCC stepping in and going BS, Disney just marched right along.
Correct.
But what we need to do, Mike, we need to get all the damn consumers in this country behind stuff like this and pull the plug on some of these guys, because it's all about the Benjamins, right? At the end of the day, it's all about the Benjamins. So if you get the consuming public behind it, very much like they were behind, the heinous crime that happened to Mr. Kirk, because that's the only way it's going to get fixed, because politicians aren't going to do diddly, and
unfortunately, you're right.
They've proved that they don't have the character, and they don't have, well, I'm just going to leave it at that. They don't have the character to do what's right. And I don't know where along the line they lost it, but they did.
They lost it out of greed, David.
Yeah.
They got elected to Congress, and suddenly they got pulled aside and said, look, just cost you a few votes, but look what we'll do for you. You don't have to worry about getting reelected again. We'll cover all your expenses. We'll make sure nobody runs against you. You got all these benefits. You're going to have insider trading stock. You're going to go from having $100 in your account to $100 million in a matter of 10 years. Just enjoy the ride. Yep. And boy, are they enjoying the ride, David.
Yeah. Well, listen, Mike, we've been talking to Mike Lutz, who's the president and CEO of Invest USA. You need to go out to his website, look at it, support it, because he's helping all of the first responders out there get the equipment that they need to help protect them on their day-to-day activities. And Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure, as it always is, to have you on the show and talk to you.
Well, I thank you, David, because if you didn't have your show, American people wouldn't know the truth. And I like what you said when you and I were just here discussing. We're going to have to stand united, and we're going to have to stand for the truth, and we're going to have to take matters that need to be done and press it till it gets done. And we're going to have to support the people that are trying to do it. I made this plea to the administration. Now is the time to concentrate on accountability from top to bottom. That means members of Congress as well. I will assure you, David, that if we start enforcing accountability from top to bottom, members of Congress start going to jail, etc., you'll see a huge change in this country's attitude.
Absolutely.
And people will suddenly snap to attention again, snap straight. Things will fly right for a while. But not until, because if we don't do that, they laugh behind your back, say, there's no consequences. I'm going to do it again.
Exactly. Well, Mike, thanks so much, and God be with you, and we'll have you back on as soon as we can.
Look forward to it, David. God bless you. God bless America. Keep up the good work. You're doing a fantastic job.
So are you, my friend. So are you.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to listen to more Clarity from Chaos shows on demand, go to clarityfromchaos.buzzsprout.com or send Dave an email at info@clarityfromchaos.com for information on previous shows. You can also listen to the show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Twitter, or Google Podcast. Until next time, please remember, it's not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Be well, everyone.